Chapter 3 review is what this video is about. Section 3.1 had to do with distributive property. Now, distributive property in most cases is math that can be done easily another way. Like for instance, these, you would probably go ahead and add 8 plus 2 and get 10 and multiply by 30. But if you're doing it by distributive property, you're taking 3 times 8, which is 24, plus 3 times 2, which is 6. So 24 plus 6 is 30. Now on those, it probably would have been easier to just combine the like terms first. On this one, you would take 5 times 19, which is going to be 95, minus, because that's what the sign is there, 5 times 6, which is 30. So you're going to look at this and go, oh, that's the same as, let's see, that would be 65. Okay. These down here you would have to do by distributive property. These up here you could have done another way, that you could have done what was inside the parentheses first. But down here we have variables involved. I'm going to add the opposite of the second number there. So I'm going to go negative 20 times 5, which is negative 100. And negative 20 times negative n is positive 2m. And obviously you cannot combine those terms. So that is the only way that this problem could have been done. Now on this one, you see the single number is behind the parentheses that has the sum or the difference in it. So you have to multiply this times this, and then this times this. So I have negative 6 times n, which is negative 6m. And then negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. So that is your final answer on that one and that one. You can't combine anything, and you have to leave it with a variable in there. Section 3.2 had to do with simplifying algebraic expressions. What we talked about on these is you combine like terms. So the ones that have variables, the variables have to match. So on this one, you have a negative 9x and you have a positive 1x. That's going to give you a negative 8x, and then you can't do a thing with the negative 5. I can't combine it with anything else, so I just leave it added to the negative 8x. On this one, these two match, so I have a negative 14x because they're both negative, so I add and use their sign. I don't have anything else to add to my 5y, and I don't have anything else to add to my negative 4. So that's the way that that problem stands. Section 3.3, this had to do with solving for a variable, trying to isolate or get the variable or the letter on one side by itself. And we talked about how there's numbers that you then have to get rid of, like we talked about, sometimes you need some space from your siblings, and so you have to figure out a way to get them to move to another location. So on adding, the opposite of adding a positive 10 would be adding a negative 10. So I add those, I get a y, a negative and a negative gives me a negative 40. Now you can solve and check these. Negative 40 plus 10 equals positive, or negative 30. Negative 30 equals negative 30. So therefore I know y does equal negative 40. I would always on these, I would add the opposite when I have subtraction. So now to get rid of a negative 10 that's added, I would add a positive 10 to both sides. And it gives me h equals negative 10. And if you solved it, you would see that that is your correct answer. On this one, again, I would add the opposite. So now I have k plus 12. So I'm going to add a negative 12 to both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do the other side. So I get k is equal to negative 4. I'm adding a negative 15. So to get rid of it, I add a positive 15 to both sides. I get m equals 35. And again, each one of these, you could have checked it as well. This is subtraction, so I'm going to add the opposite. So I'm adding a negative 4. To get rid of that negative 4, I would have to add a positive 4. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. Okay, this one I'm adding a negative 10, so I add a positive 10 to get rid of it. So I have W is equal to 22. Then we did a section 3.4, that talked about if something is multiplied, the way you get rid of it is divide it. If something is divided, the way you get rid of it is multiply. So 6W, the 6 is multiplied by the W, so to get rid of it, you divide both sides by the 6. On the left-hand side, I have a W. On the right-hand side, I would have a 0. Again, you can plug it back in to solve for it. You are dividing or multiplying by the exact number you have. So if you have a negative 7 that's multiplied, you have to divide by a negative 7 as well. So I get J is equal to a positive 6, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Now down here you see that they are divided. So the way that you get rid of something that's divided is that you multiply. If I'm multiplying and dividing by the same number, they're equal to 1. So I have a 1m is equal to a positive 50 here. This one, it's divided by positive 5. So I multiply by positive 5 to get rid of it. And I get W is equal to negative 50. Then we put all this together. And we learned how to do like two-step equations. So the very first thing that I would have to get rid of is this positive 4. It's the farthest away. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, or add a negative 4. And I'm going to get Z divided by negative 5 equals negative 9. I would multiply both sides by negative 5. I didn't quite leave myself enough room. And I'm going to get Z equals negative 9 times negative 5 is positive 45. Over here, I'm going to add the opposite of the second number. So I'm going to add a positive 10 to get rid of it. So I have a 2y equals 22. I'm going to divide by 2. And I'm going to find out that y is equal to 11. Because 22 divided by 2 is 11. This one, I have 15 minus W over 2 equals negative 15. First thing I want to do is get rid of that thing that's either added or subtracted. I'm going to go ahead and add the opposite. And I'll put the negative on the bottom here because it'll just make it easier. So I'm going to add a negative 15 to both sides. So I have W over negative 2 equals negative 30. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. And I get W is equal to positive 60. Again, you could check it by plugging that back in. These I want to combine like terms first. So I have a negative 6h plus an h. That gives me a negative 5h. And I have a 4 minus 3, which is going to give me a positive 1 equals negative 14. Then I can start my problem. I'm going to subtract 1 or add a negative 1 to both sides. And I get negative 5h equals negative 15. I'm going to divide by negative 5. I get h is equal to positive 3. I think that might have been, I might have skipped a section here. I might have to go back and get that. I don't know what section 3.6. I might have to come back and get that one. Section 3.7, we used formulas with these. The perimeter, remember, is the distance all the way around a figure. So like a rectangle, you have length plus width, or 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Area is the space within something. Rectangular area is length times width. Distance is equal to rate times times. Those are all formulas that you're going to use in these problems. Like for instance, there's a perimeter formula and an area formula. So on this particular rectangle, to get the perimeter, I would recognize that if it's a rectangle, this side would have to be 10 centimeters, and this side would have to be 12 centimeters. So a perimeter is equal to 12 plus 10 plus 12 plus 10, which is going to give me 44 centimeters. Area would be length times width, or 10 centimeters times 12 centimeters, which is going to give me 120. It's going to be centimeters squared because it's centimeters times centimeters. Then this is another problem that you might have to be able to do. A balloon is caught in the wind traveling 25 feet per second, which is a rate. If the wind is constant, how long will it take the balloon to travel 1,000 feet? So this is based on distance is equal to rate times time. I know the rate. The rate is 25 feet per second. I don't know the time, but I do know the distance. The distance is 1,000 feet. So what I'm going to do to solve for the t, I can switch sides. I have 25 times t equals 1,000, and I can divide by 25, and that's going to give me t is equal to 40. So it's going to take me 40 seconds to have a balloon travel 1,000 feet if it's traveling at 25 feet per second. So the homework on this is page 138 through 140, and it's 11 through 37 odd, and I'll go back and see if I need to pick up some stuff from 3-6. The section that I left out just had to do, it was actually entitled 3-6, and it has to do with writing or translating equations and then solving for them. So those are things that you've worked on before, so I don't know that, it's a big deal that we left it out. But just remember, keywords, product has to do with multiplication, sum has to do with addition, difference has to do with subtraction, quotient has to do with division. So they're going to give you some words, and you're going to have to write the equation and then solve for the equation. So you might say something like, if 17 is decreased by twice the number, the result is 5. So 17 is decreased or subtracted by twice the number, so 2n. The result, or it's equal to 5. So I'm going to solve this. I'm going to add the opposite of the second number. I'm going to add a negative 17 to both sides. I'm going to get negative 2n. This is going to give me a negative 12 right here. Now I'm going to divide by the negative 2, and I'm going to get n is equal to 6. So it's really similar to all the other stuff that you're doing. The only thing is you've got to come up with the equation. So just remember your keywords. We've been working on this through several chapters, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue. You're going to practice some of these on your review homework.